First of all, thank you for having me here. When you say 1983, you make me sound really old. But I was ahead of my time, so I was only 4 when I came here. So what I didn't tell you was I was here on a boarding school. But in any case, yes, so I did complete my studies back in 1983, and of course 2 years later, the school was burnt down. That was not my fault. But it's nice to be here. I was here last year as well and looked around your campus. And it's really exciting to be back because I go to other colleges, and I've been to other colleges to speak to them as well. But of course, this one has a personal connection. And the most interesting thing that I found today coming off of the bus or the car was that everybody's dressed so beautifully, so smart. You intimidated me. I'm thinking, you know, I normally turn up in a nice suit and a nice tie, and here you are. You're just so beautifully attired. You're looking so great and so smart and so friendly, and that's a differentiator for you at Les Roches, and you should take that to the bank because, you know, as I said, I go to Cornell. I've been to UNLV and other colleges and spoken to those guys. But there's nobody else that turns out as a smart outfit as this. So you should be thankful to your upbringing, but also be thankful to the fact that you're part of this amazing group of people that are ahead of time. And you know, today, when people talk about luxury, people forget about the fact that, you know, it's also about not just being intuitive and engaging, but it's also about being refined. And so I see that you're already ahead of time. So congratulations to you. Now I started my little presentation with knowing your personal brand. So remember this slide. I'm going to come back to it in a second because I'm going to do a little bit of a commercial about what we do as a brand, what we do as a hotel group, and what we've established over the last 8 years. Since the brand was purchased. If you don't know, Rosewood is not Starwood, has nothing to do with it. Although when I first took this job, everybody thought, you work for Starwood. Absolutely not. I would never work for a large conglomeration, but if you want to work for them, IAG and all those guys, you're welcome. But you know, I went to Les Roches, and the first thing that I wanted to do was go and work for a boutique company and work for iconic properties, the mainstays, the legacy properties. So after here, I went to Savoy. And after Savoy, I went to the Ritz. After the Ritz, I went to Four Seasons. So I feel lucky to be part of a wonderful pedigree of the hospitality community. And so I was actually spoiled. And therefore, I wanted to be part of something that would lead the charge in kind of reinvigorating those legacy properties and those legacy companies. So, Rosewood, the DNA of our hotel group. You know, we talk about sense of place. A lot of people, a lot of companies use that statement liberally, be it travel publications, be it residences, be it office space. People talk about sense of place. We use sense of place we're paranoid about it. We're passionate about sense of place because everything that we do, if you don't, who's been to our hotels? I know about your proposal. That's it? That's it? Oh my God. Okay, maybe I should make this a commercial. I should take you straight to the website and tell you who we are. So Rosewood, what we do is we punctuate everything in our properties and orchestrate the properties in such a way that it's not just about design. It's about everything that we do, how we accessorize it, how we amenitize it, how we prepare our hotels to be part of the local hotel, local community. And so everything about the hotel is articulated in a manner that speaks to that destination, because today's customer is not just looking for a typical hotel experience. And if I were you, if you've entered into this community and this profession, think about ahead, because between now and 2025, when there's all these disruptions that are going on with the technology and the digital field, there's a lot that's going to happen over the next 5-6 years. So you should think about this industry as something, as a bit of a platform to say, okay, how can I make a difference? So we decided that if you take the sense of place mantra, which is actually a very easy mantra to define, sense of place, right? We actually trademarked it. So if there are other companies that use sense of place as a defining tagline, let me know, because we can sue them. Well, we can't, because I wouldn't have all the time to do that. So our customer, the people that follow Rosewood, follow these luxury companies, follow companies like Aman, really speak to the global traveler who's in search of authentic experiences, and I just defined that earlier. Authentic experience is about, I'll give you an example. You're going to stay at Paris in one of our hotels, Hotel de Crillon. Anybody heard of Hotel de Crillon? Ah, you've heard of Hotel de Crillon, but you've never heard of Rosewood. It's a Rosewood hotel. So, or have you? So the Hotel de Crillon, you're staying in the Hotel de Crillon, and you pay for your wonderful accommodations at 20,000 euros a night for a suite, or 35,000 if you're lucky enough to pay for the Karl Lagerfeld suite. But with it, we would include things like front row for the Chanel fashion show. Or the chef will go to the market and FaceTime you and say, Miss Aurora, I've got this fantastic rosé. I'd like to come and prepare for you tonight, and for you and your family. Those are the kind of personal connections and experiences that people are looking for today, something that the next door neighbor cannot have, something that other clients cannot have. Today, I mean, you know, the distance between the wealth, when we speak of high net worth individuals, they're really looking for something that others cannot have. And there are more and more billionaires every day. And so we, Rosewood, pander to them. Of course, I'm talking about luxury. There are other aspects of our hospitality community, don't get me wrong. Luxury doesn't always make good money, by the way. It doesn't always have a great EBITDA. If you're looking to really work for a company that has great profit margins, then the 3-4 star level always make good money. Our customer today is, and of course we have 4 brands. When I speak to different clients, we have 4 brands. We have Rosewood, we have the Penta, which is a limited lifestyle company, New World Hotels, which is based in Asia. And then we also have another brand that we've just started called COS, which really focuses on co-working space. And I know that space is also getting very dense, but we believe that Rosewood has an opportunity to take that co-working space and really articulate it in a different way. So we find today, so if you just going to focus on Rosewood Hotels and Resorts today, that is why I was hired initially. We find that our clients are cultured, educated, and driven, just like yourselves, and looking to learn and be inspired. So we talk about local community, we talk about sense of place. And when we talk about sense of place, we talk about working with local artisans. So anything from food, from beverages, from art in the hotel. It's all about working with the local artisans, giving way to the community. Because today, it's our purpose to be socially responsible. And the one way we start is when we go to different destinations, be it Guangzhou, be it Phuket, be it London, be it Tuscany. We always want to make sure that we work with the local community and give them the first rights to articulate the property through design, through all the different elements. So, so this is a little bit of a commercial, so stay with me for a second, because since some of you have not been there, I'm going to try and take you there. So let me just go on. So today we're at 28 properties and 24 in the pipeline. I want to talk to you about how we've got here. Rosewood Hotels and Resorts was founded exactly 40 years ago. And the brand was actually idling. And so the family out of China, Hong Kong, the Cheng family, young daughter, young CEO, she's now 38, she was 30 when she took over the company. So I worked for somebody who was actually 20 years younger. Imagine, down the road, I could still be working for you if I'm still around. You could all be my bosses, or if nothing else, GMs of hotels, so I can go and have a complimentary stay. And so this is a very important message here, is that you see an idling brand that's been sitting there for 30 plus years, and a company comes in and say, okay, this is a sleeping giant, something that we want to take and reinvigorate, because the hospitality space is pretty much idling in itself, in that other brands, and I won't mention them because I'm sure that you guys have already been to them. Some of the postgrads have already worked with some of these other brands. We wanted to show how we can really disrupt the hospitality community, really disrupt the space. And so unless you've actually been to our properties and stayed there, it's hard for me. I'm going to try my best to articulate what it is that makes a difference other than the sense of place aspect of it. So 28 existing properties. We were, 8 years ago, we were 16. We're only at 28. Sounds like a very, very slow growth. But it was a very determined approach because we didn't want to go everywhere. We don't want to be like another brand. And it's a very thoughtful approach in as far as when I talk about authenticating experiences that are legitimate and sincere and genuine, we went where we feel that we can deliver on those promises. So we didn't just want to grow. So in this last year, we opened Rosewood Hong Kong. I'm not sure if you've heard of Rosewood Hong Kong, but obviously I'm going to give you a very biased statement. But it is, in today's world, over the next 20, 30 years, you won't see a hotel built in this fashion. And the reason why I say that is because the family that owns a brand see it as a legacy property for them, as a hotel that's going to be around for the next few generations. And it's built in a way that doesn't look so contemporary, so cut and paste hotel. And is built on the ideology of the Rockefeller Center in New York. So from the architecture standpoint, they wanted to create a legacy because this, if you know Hong Kong, Kowloon side, this area, it was a really pertinent, important area back in the 80s when there was a lot of development going on in this part of of Hong Kong, because this part of Hong Kong was really idling itself. And so the family went back in there. They owned the entire landscape at the front, the boardwalk, and they built this hotel. Sadly, as you know, the protesters in Hong Kong in the past few months have been, for us, unfortunately, it was a very difficult situation because you open a brand new hotel and the protesters have been really boisterous and vociferous over these last few weeks. And so our occupancies are the weakest ever. And I can stand here then start giving all the postgrads and talking about, well, what do you do when the occupancy goes down? Is you're down to 15% and your ADR is suffering. How do you keep on all the staff? How do you keep your overheads? How do you maintain your EBITDA? That's a good question because I'm still trying to reach the answer myself. But I will say, and I'm not sure whether and I will get into what I did in my past. When I was with Four Seasons and we went through downturns in an economy, you never compromise on your service. You never compromise on your ADR. Why? Because it's always hard to come back up again. Never compromise on that and somehow find a way to give value to the customer versus just slashing the rates and trying to take care of your payroll. And there's always a way. But that's for another time. Rosewood Miramar Beach, if you don't know, Miramar Beach, Montecito is probably the most affluent area on the West Coast. It's an hour and a half drive from my home. So it's near LA, and you know, California, you always think there are always going to be these wonderful restaurants and hotels on the beach. Wrong. This is the only one. And why? Because California is a very tough, somebody told me they just worked there. Who worked there? It's just somebody, it was somebody. Oh no, that was one of the.
Selena, she's in BBA3.
Right.
She just had her internship there.
Right. California is a really tough state because they make it hard for you because you pay for all the wonderful weather that you've got. So you know, it's just not that easy place. But having said that, Santa Barbara, this particular destination is probably the most coveted destination in Southern California. And it's this place has just been a runaway success for us, and a lot of lessons for us in this particular property, because we opened full on with the restaurants firing all cylinders, and we couldn't deal with it, couldn't cope with it. And our lessons was that we allowed our ownership to open the property without really thinking it through, to the extent they knew the place was going to be expressive and really heavy on demand, and we let them. And what we learned from that was, and again, I'm just giving you a little philosophical lesson on all the postgrads who talk about openings and different partnerships with investors and owners. Again, always hold firm to your brand. This hotel is absolutely gorgeous, but we had some challenges in the beginning. So our vision for the future is that, you know, we, as I mentioned, we don't want to be a global force. We want to be a global force, but not an institution. We're a collection of individual, bespoke properties, and something that complements the people that work with us. People work with us because they want to be able to give, to be able to express themselves, to extend their personalities, to forge those partnerships and relationships with the clients. And if you want to do that, then this is the brand, and that's what makes me so excited. So we've been successful. Previously, we were resort heavy. Who's heard of Las Ventanas? Where is Les Roches? What's going on here? Las Ventanas is the gold standard of all resorts in the world. Now again, I'm not being biased, but having stayed at different hotels, it's a destination, and I'll just pause a little for a second. It's a great business model for the grads to think about, because it focuses only on the culture and creating pride amongst the associates. When you do that, creativity, no worries. Profitability, no worries. The business model takes care of itself. And we've taken the Las Ventanas model around the globe, and we've permeated that through the brand. And I will tell you that, of course, now we're a global force, but back then when the company was very small, Las Ventanas was our emblem, and we used Mexico as a sort of a powerhouse to drive the personality of the brand. If you haven't been to Mexico, I will tell you that some of the nicest people in the world. So it was it's a very important feature of the brand. So and what made it successful is about pride and about talent and culture, which is what Rosewood focuses on today, and I'll get into that in a second, more and more so. So some of the openings that are coming up: Sao Paulo next year. This is a Philippe Starck designed hotel. That and another example of what goes on in our hospitality community. This deal was struck back in 2012, and we're opening 8 years later. So some of these projects can take a long time, needs a lot of patience, and a lot of thought process. Because imagine back in 2012, if you start developing those food and beverage concepts and you start hiring, imagine what would happen to the property today. So just some life lessons. We already have a property in London, and this is took 3 years of my life working on this particular project to bring it into part of the company's portfolio. If you don't know this, this is Grosvenor Square in Mayfair, probably the best address on the planet. And so we're working with the Qataris, you know, if anybody's here from Doha. Anybody here from Doha? No? Okay, so the Qataris have the deepest purses. And I'm not just talking about a Louis Vuitton or Hermes Birkin bag and all that. I'm talking about deep cash pits. And so this project will cost them, with us managing it, about 1.2 billion pounds. Now, again, I'm trying to educate. I want to share so much with you. Don't tell anybody else. Hopefully this doesn't go on the Instagram. Please don't do that. Definitely don't do that. You know, projects, a development of a project is gauged by the monies that you spend per key. And so ordinarily, in today's terms, if you're spending about a couple of $1 million a key, it's a good, solid, sound project. This one will be around 10 million plus. And so for us, it'll be yet another defining feature of the brand. So I'm particularly excited about this project. Rosewood Venice. This is a small palazzo. It's only about 600 years old. And what's exciting about this, you just saw Hong Kong, which is 400 plus keys rooms. You saw Mayfair, 130 plus keys. This is only 46 rooms. So you can imagine the intimate experience that we can deliver on this particular property. It's not just a picture postcard. It will redefine Venice, because if you know Venice, Venice is it's a tourist destination. And today's traveler doesn't want that anymore. They don't want to be part of the masses. They don't want to be going on cruises and seeing all these sort of mass cruises arriving, certainly in Venice or destinations like Capri and Sardinia. So I'm really happy. I'm really excited about this particular property. It has 2 separate entrances. You arrive in a gondola, you have an outdoor experience. And so for those of you postgrads in about 22, 23, when you're looking to get married, this is a perfect spot for you. Houston. Notice the juxtaposition here. I've gone from exciting, beautiful, gorgeous Venice to Houston. But you know, Houston is a, if you don't know, who's been to Houston? Oh, nice. Did we like it? Or did we have to go there? Okay, you went to school there. You know, our brand was born in Texas, so you know that. Our brand was born in Texas. So we have this affinity to Texas. And so we have Dallas and Mansion on Turtle Creek, where the brand was founded, and Houston. And Houston, again, is a great destination for a future client who's, for the millennials, where why? Because it's tax-free. There's no state tax. So if you guys, you know, if you've paid your education and everything else, if you can't pay it, I'll just move to Houston. At least you don't have to pay your state taxes. But this is a major development with one of the renowned families in Houston, the McNair family. You probably heard of them. Are developing this area, so I'm excited about this. And again, it's connected to Dallas. So my little journey, other than the fact that I was here in 1983, thank you for pointing that out. So my passion, my journey with our little hospitality community began at the age of 9 months. See, I was a smart guy. And when I said, why 9 months? Because I was born in India. My parents moved to Moscow. And we traveled, in those days, you travel by, when I say that's not 1983, we're talking about early 60s, late 50s. And you must be thinking, how old is this guy? Remember, I live in LA, so what you see is not what you get. So I learned to walk on a ship, on a boat. That's why I'm walking a lot now, because I was, constantly staggering. But and we came to London for a few months before my father got transferred to London, and we lived in a hotel in London in those days for a few months called the Strand Palace. Now the Strand Palace in those days was a place where you'd stay for a long durations, and it was across from the Savoy. Hence my love affair with the Savoy, because I was right across, and I had this, of course I don't remember anything when I was 9 months, but I had the photographs for when we went back, on the way back to India, and so I had this sort of affinity, not just with London, where I grew up eventually, but also with the fact that we lived in a hotel, and I smelled the hotel, the shoe cleaning, everything else. I loved everything about the hotels. And this is all I ever wanted to do. But along this journey, so this is where we lived in Moscow. This is actually the old, the residences. I don't know why I'm sharing that with you, because my assistant put that in there, so I thought I'd put it in there. But, so I'll move this one along. So we moved to Moscow, we moved to the Middle East, and then we moved to Paris, and then went off to boarding school in England. Along the way, we were constantly in hotels. Now, a lot of people might say, well, you've spoon-fed and silver spoon, why would you want to work in hotels? But I was in the bowels of the hotels. I would go down to room service, to the still room, to garde manger, to the banquet chefs. Even at that age, I was super excited about this industry, and I just wanted to be part of it. And so, having said that, in our culture, my culture, Indian culture back then, it was a no-no to go to hotel schools. Really? You're a bit of a failure. Really? That's all you want to do? Go to hotels? No, you should be a lawyer, you should be a doctor, you should do this and that. And I will tell you, I didn't have the smarts in those days. I just didn't want to do it. And so if you don't want to do something, your passion is not there. And so therefore, academically, I wasn't able to become a dentist, which is what my parents really wanted me to do. Now imagine me being a dentist. I can't stand the sight of blood. So then I went to a small college in Wales before I came to Les Roches in 1981. And my love affair for being, I live in Los Angeles, by the way. My love affair for being connected with this industry was not just about the experiences, being in this sort of international community of people, loving to work with people, loving people. But it was also the affinity, the attraction was also there because at a very early stage of my learning through my MIT program at this little hotel called Selfridge Hotel. Yes, it's next to the Selfridges. It was next to Selfridges. And it was owned by EMI. EMI is a record company. And with the record company meant there was a lot of celebrities that would come into the hotel. So I was, wow, bragging rights. So along the way, all these things that happened, I just got to enjoy my career that much more. And of course, as I said, I came here back then in 1981, so I'm not the oldest person here, by the way. But of course, 2 years later, there was a little fire here, if you don't know. and the school was reignited, resurrected. And I was saying earlier on, the only thing I remember is a pool out here, and some awkward lessons especially in the pastry section, which I will not get into. It's the only thing I remember. Well, I'll tell you. I was told to hold the cake stand from below. You know how you're supposed to hold it with the cake. The pastry chefs specifically tell you to hold the cake stand like this. I wasn't listening. Hands are stand to me. The cake's on top of it. I pick it up from the top. The cake stand drops. I get sent out, and basically was told not to come back to the pastry lessons ever again. And so, therefore, I don't eat much dessert. So the turning point was, we all have defining moments, the turning points. And I feel very fortunate, very lucky to be part of this industry, and to be standing here, to be talking to you as an alumnus, and the role that I'm in today. Who knew? I had no clue. I had no clue where I was going with this. There was no path. There was no vision. There was no, in those days, it wasn't that, I wanted to be a general manager, vice president, president of a company. I just followed my passion. I just followed my heart. And that's what makes it even more special and much more fulfilling. So the turning point was when I got my first general manager's job, having been a hotel manager at the Ritz in London for about 7 years. And for me, it was a huge win because, I can say that here because we were an international community, but being first of my ethnicity to be managing an institutional hotel like the Ritz in London meant a lot for me personally. It meant I had to overachieve to make it into that role. And that's what makes it even more special. That made me even more determined to go out and do more, because I said, okay, if I can do this, I can do more. So it's hard work. I mean, I was working in the earlier days when I talk about my stage and my MIT programs, and of course my junior years, working 18, 19, 20 hours a day. So those of you who work in the kitchen, then go into stewarding, and then come out and do another break, I don't feel sorry for you. Been there, done that, and loved it. So another turning point in my life was going to work in Hawaii, in Maui. First of all, when you talk about cultures, you talk about great East Asian culture, and the European culture, and the Mexican culture. The Hawaiian culture is life-defining, is life-changing. It changed the way I presented myself, or I learned to. It changed the way I actually led my properties. And so, having been at the Ritz for 7 years, an institutional hotel, as you know, it's an institution. It's been around for a century plus. And so you're in the Ritz, you're in these bowels where people have been there for 30, 40 years, and they walk with such air and such, I would say, arrogance. And so that was my lesson. That was my first lesson as a hotel manager. I was very young. I was 30. And here I was leading a group of people that had been there for a long time. I had no clue how to lead these people. So, and I watched and observed my successors or predecessors, the people that I followed, and so the only way I knew at that point was to be autocratic. And of course, that word does not exist today in any culture. I was pretty autonomous, really sort of forceful. When I joined Four Seasons, when I went to Maui, it changed me completely. The Hawaiian culture is such that it just gives you just so much peace to your soul. And it changed the way I managed my teams, the people that I work with, and the way I managed upward as well. So the Aloha Spirit stays with you forever. Yes, that was a long time. That's my younger brother. So, so today, you know, it's if you haven't heard it in my voice, I'm able to deliver on my passion every single day. And you know, hospitality, it's a love story. It's about finding the right fit and the niche that you speak, that fits you, and that you speak to. If you guys are really passionate about this field, and I'm sure that you are, given the amazing wealth of education that you're experiencing in this wonderful institution, you can go through any uncharted territories. You can break down every barrier, and I will say that when I look around and I travel by different properties, when I come across Les Roches students, again, I'm not biased, they are definitely the best students there. They're definitely the most articulate, the happiest people that I've come across, certainly in my brand. Maybe it's to do with my brand, actually. So our culture is a distinctive collective identity that guides the way we work together. So this, I say this because we are currently, as we expand, we're 28 hotels today. We've got to be 51 properties in 4 years. So you'd say to yourself, oh gosh, how are we going to expand? How are we going to go from 10,000 associates to 18,000 associates, and to have another 24 general managers, another 24 times 8 executive committee members? How are you going to find that talent? Hopefully it's all here. If you want a quick, early path, you want to be general managers, let me know. Sorry?
Tomorrow you will get all serious.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. No, that wasn't me talking, that was him talking. I wanted to show this slide because we're actually really focusing on our talent and culture. And we're about to roll something out, something extraordinary in the next 2.5 weeks in Hong Kong. We have our leadership summit in Hong Kong. Why? Because the hotel's empty anyway. I'll be taking my mask. Hong Kong, obviously, because it's our legacy property, and also the fact that the family's there, and then the sort of our head office is in Hong Kong. So we're about to roll something out that is, and I might actually share little tidbits, so please don't tell anybody else. Now that we've become really good friends, we've got a selfie together, so don't tell anybody else. There's going to be I'll punctuate my conversations with some things that are going to be rolled out over the next couple of weeks, in a couple of minutes. I wanted to share this. Why? Because I talked about the pride. Remember Las Ventanas, Mexico, the same thing that's going on for us in Asia as well, where that sense of pride, that sense of determination when you wake up in the morning, you get ready, and you come to your workplace, and you want to just give it all. And so this is a really good measure for us to say, you know what, as I'm saying all this, and I talk about that intuitive behavior, the engaging behavior, this tells us that we're doing what we're saying we should be doing, that emotional engagement with our clients. Don't tell those other competitors that's what we're doing, but this is a true fact. Now, if you've done a little bit of homework on our brand, you'll see that we speak to relationship hospitality. Well, what does that mean? at Rosewood Hotel Group, it's our desire, as I mentioned, to build genuine, rewarding, and lasting relationships with everyone, all the stakeholders, and it comes to us naturally. And when I say all the stakeholders, I mean fellow associates, our clients, our partners, and people that want to invest in us as a brand. Remember, it's one thing operating properties, but you've got to be a financial, viable, successful business model. And I will tell you, when the brand was purchased to where it is today, the value of our brand is now worth 4 times more than it was when it was first purchased. Other property values have gone up. Other brands, their values have gone up. When I'm talking about values, I'm talking about monetary values. But I think that today, our brand is very much sustainable. What we're trying to build here through all these sort of different initiatives taking on, like talent and culture that I'm speak to in a second, it's about making sure that this company is sustainable. Again, that's not a commercial. I'm trying to educate you to the fact that if you really are determined and want to enjoy the feel and revel in the feel that you're in, you've got to be in it for the long term. It's not just a quick explosion when you come out of the hotel school. You have to be persistent for it to be long term. And so our vision is really trying to inspire imagination, enriching lives. When I talk about enriching lives, I'll give an example in Mayakoba. You know where Mayakoba is? Excellent. Another place in Mexico, yes. It's near Cancun. And so the general manager decides that he wants to take care of his team, he wants to take care of his people, and he sees, and it's a struggle for them. Mayakoba is not, it's Mexico, but it's still expensive because there's a dense hotel community. So the cost of living is getting more and more expensive. So together with the executive team, they built a school for the children of the associates. And that's when I talk about relationship hospitality, those are the kind of things that we do with the community. Those are the kind of things that we do to keep us honest, to be a brand that's defined by a sense of place. So again, I mentioned discovering the uncharted. We want to keep finding new ways of improving ourselves, being different, punctuating the properties that are really different. Again, if you haven't seen, for instance, Hotel Le Crillon in Paris, you'll see it's not just who's worked or lived in Paris, or been to Paris, of course. It's the same person all the time. You've been everywhere. If you know the Parisian hotels, the Palais hotels, they're pretty much similar in their offerings. You take the Ritz or the Plaza Athénée or the Maurice, the Georges V, pretty much. And you go to Hotel Le Crillon or Rosewood Hotel, you'll see it feels like a living room, built for the fashionistas, built for the Parisian community that really wants to hang out in a hotel. And so our values, we give ownership to our associates. They take ownership for guest experience. We will write policies, procedures, SOPs, but they're just there to sit on a shelf. We encourage our associates to really liberate themselves, and they're allowed to do that. They're allowed to take risks, and we're very much open to making mistakes. And at the same time, what that does is encourages people to be inventive. So I mentioned that we're about to roll something out, and it's called. Not taping this, are you? Of course you are. It's a calling. The calling. And what is a calling? So I talked about relationship hospitality, and as I said, it's in our genes. So if you have it, you have it. It's a natural desire to deliver meaningful and heartfelt experiences. It's what we call a calling. At Rosewood, we will work instinctively and from the heart. And hopefully you'll see that I speak from the heart. It's a very little preparation here, other than a few words, just to keep my act together. Otherwise, I'll keep rambling on, I'm sorry. And it's hot in here too. we work instinctively and from the heart to master and elevate our craft. And then again, I'll highlight the word craft. This hotel school is the only hotel school on the planet that really gives you that craft, that art. So when you do come in and you do have to work in the kitchen and you have to put on that red uniform in the stewarding department and you have to go and work in the bar and you've got to prepare those sort of artisanal cocktails and you're thinking, oh my God, I've just come out of school, I'm having to do this. My mother never let me do this. No, it's really important. It keeps you humble and it keeps you engaged with the business that you've got to be in. I mean, how could you run an operation or a business concern if you don't master the craft? Really important to do that, because then when you do go out and make it, you're leading from the front because you've been there. You earn the respect, and you have you learn the respect from your associate because they know that you've been in the bowels of this industry. So that is the calling. Then of course. And I'm just giving a little summation of what we're going to roll out as a sort of voice for the future. Together, we push the boundaries to impart magic into every day. And by the way, these are not just slogans. These are words that are carefully crafted, that we've sat down, lost sleep over, and come up with words that are indelible, that really mean something to me, to my associates, and to the team that we work with. So we care for people and make it a purpose to build long-lasting, genuine relationships, and I mentioned that earlier. So here, and as I go back to what I said when I was 6 months, 9 months, and I joined this industry, here we do what we were born to do, and it's our calling, and it's my calling, and so. That's me, that's my company, that's the industry that I'm in. And as I mentioned, it's inspiring imagination, dreaming big, making it happen, from thoughtful touches to truly sensational experiences, not just experiences. And enriching other people's lives. I mean, imagine you come to work and you're enriching your associates' lives, your team's life, the lives of people that are coming to stay with you, and thinking what a difference you've made to their lives. It's not just the transaction, it's actually meaningful experiences that you're creating. And of course, I mentioned discovering the uncharted. We're not going to be held back by legacy. And again, I feel very fortunate having worked with legacy properties and traditional properties, though we'll keep one hand on tradition, but we'll still keep pushing through those uncharted territories. And so my question to you is, what is in your DNA? That's what the first slide that I started with. Is this your calling? Do you feel empowered? When you've gone out and done your MIT programs and gone through different companies, do you feel empowered at the school to come up with novel, creative ideas going forward? Because that's what we're looking for. Yeah, and that's it. So when I ask the question, what's in your DNA, it's a question from me to you. What's in your DNA? What do you guys want to do? Tell me, somebody. I know you want to get into hospitality, but it's not just don't think about making it big from the outset. Because if you want to do that, you can go to Cornell and you can get all those promises, and then 2 years later, you'll be back to square one. You're at the right place for that, here, for successes. So the world's your oyster. And you can break down any boundary you like, especially coming off of this platform. I'm a, as I said, walking example. I'll take questions if you don't want to answer my question.
I have a question.
Yes.
First, I can answer your question if you like.
Yes.
That, so much so that having worked for Four Seasons for 10 years, then
You did?
yes,
Where?
London mostly, a little bit in Mexico City,
Very good.
opening in Canary Wharf.
Mm. Mm.
Then I took a break, had a family, and now I'm back here doing an MBA to get back into what my DNA
Fantastic.
tells me to do.
Good.
You mentioned Rosewoods
Yes.
DNA
Yes.
being about a collection of individual properties.
Mhm.
And you went from a portfolio of 16 properties
Mhm.
to
Well, it kept changing by the month because we left we got rid of a few, we got fired from a few, and then we built some of our own. Yes.
So you grew in 8 years, you grew by around 12 properties.
Yeah.
And the plan now is that within 5 years,
50-ish, 45, 50.
so you'll have
Depends.
like about a 24 property growth, which an almost twofold
It's a double.
growth.
Mhm.
What key challenges do you see Rosewood having in order to maintain what Rosewood is about, which is attention to detail? It's about each
Yep.
property being individual. And it's, sorry, a two-part question.
No, that's good.
And so first that, what's the plan to maybe overcome challenges that you might face
Yes.
as a company?
Yes.
And my second question is residences. Do you consider those to be a fundamental part to Rosewood's
Residences.
residences? Do you consider those to be an integral part to Rosewood's growth and looking forward?
Define residences.
The properties that you can either own or have.
Ah, okay, yeah.
or-
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. Yep, got it.
Is that what you call
So how many
it?
questions is that? That's a lot. Wow.
So the key challenges for the growth.
Is there a spare chair here, Dr. Maya? No, it's very good questions. No, that's good. No, that's good. That's good. You were listening. And I know it's the afternoon time. You guys, some of you guys have had lunches and your eyes are feeling your eyelids are a little heavy. But hey, I got up at 3:30 this morning, worked out, and still came here so excited about being here. So please don't fall asleep on me, whatever you do. No, I'm just kidding. So the three questions. One is, how will we basically cope with all this growth?
Yes.
Right?
How will you maintain your
Attention to detail, yeah. Well, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hire all you wonderful people from here, educate you on attention to detail, and being passionately paranoid about detail. Look, when I was with Four Seasons for 18 years, we went from, actually when I add all my services together, I was with Four Seasons for about 20, 21 years. Because after I left here, I went to work in London. Back then, we only had 8, 9 properties. And then every few years when the company was growing, everybody was saying, whoa, 50 hotels, 22 countries, one philosophy, kept going on and on and on. And then, of course, now it's 130 hotels. There's no way you can provide the same service. No way. So what makes this brand so special is that we have a very diminutive organization, meaning it's very flat-lined. We don't have protocols, we don't have barriers. It's a family-owned company. We want to keep it that way. We don't want to build too many layers. So when that stretching point comes, when that optimal level comes where we feel that we cannot grow anymore, we'll stop. Again, it's a private concern. We're not a public offering. We don't have to go up and talk to shareholders and say, okay, your dividends, et cetera, et cetera. So, and we believe that we can still do that. If you amass the right people and the right talent, and in our industry, that talent is getting rarer by the minute. Why? Again, for the postgrads and grads, why? Because as the companies expand, as they become part of the public offerings, you lose sight of why you came into the hospitality industry in the first place, because you all become asset managers. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to have the left brain and the right brain working at the same time. I'm not concerned, because I think I have a really good group of people both in Hong Kong and in Los Angeles that will carry us through. And by visiting the properties, I was mentioning to somebody earlier on, I travel 240, 250 days out of the year, not just looking for new development and opportunities, but making sure there is that indelible paranoia for passion, looking for every little detail. Because as they say, God is in the detail, right? Or devil's in the detail, however you want to put it. Secondly, I know, sorry, there was 2 more questions I have to ask. We'll be here all evening. I think we'll have to have a drink here instead. Secondly, residents. Yes, the residential programming is something that we're getting into as we speak. We've created a whole infrastructure on that, creating an infrastructure on that. In fact, many of our properties do carry residents. The Carlisle in New York, for instance, has 25, 26 residential component. And there are other properties that we're developing, because it's a good business model for developers today to sell the residents and build a hotel as an amenity. That is a typical business model for any hotel company today, unless you have your own financial muscle, like we've happened to do it as a company. There was another question in between.
No, those were the...
Okay, great. Thank you, sorry. Yes?
First of all, thank you very much for coming here and sharing with us your personal career path. My name is Alan, and I have 2 questions. One question is more about you, like what was exactly your career path until the London's the Ritz-Carlton General Manager, and afterwards to the Four Seasons in Hawaii.
Exactly. I've done everything.
So you work like from...
Absolutely. Through... There was some guy wrote an article, maybe it's online somewhere, I think, when it talks about me being a laundry attendant. Now, I did that. Huh? No, LA Times. I did that, but that's not... I wasn't a laundry attendant and oh wow, I made it big. It was part of my training, if you see what I mean. But my first job, real job, was a night receptionist at the Inn on the Park, Four Seasons, London. And back then, 83, 84. And I spent a long time being on night. And then I became an assistant night manager. In those days, you have to do night audit, trial balances, sweeter NCR machines and all that. I mean, because now it's so easy with Opera. And all the PMS, the system that you have today. But it taught me the fundamental stuff. And, those, what were they called? Not that it matters to you, but every time somebody made a telephone call, it come up with 10 cents, 10 pence, 10 pence. I had to top those all up and actually make a trial balance. I used to love it. And talk about being, I think I had OCD then. Talk about just getting, I would time myself. I was competitive with myself. And remember, the shift lasted from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. I was done by 2 a.m. Done. And I didn't know what to do with myself. So I'd walk around the hotel. I won't get into this particular conversation because those days at nighttime, there were things that happened at nighttime in London. And I had to be the bad guy. So I learned a lot because I was able to walk around the hotel. I was very, just wanted to learn. I just wanted to learn. I was just like a sponge. And so I'd walk the corridors, see a little trash, dust, and just, So anyway, I didn't want to elaborate too much, but night reception, that was my first job.
It's interesting because my first full-time job contract was night receptionist. I worked 5 years as night auditor.
You're going to be standing here in a few years, that means. Yes. Do you want my business card now? You can erase them and put yours on. Right, Alan? Yes. Yeah, so that was one, and then carried on, worked in stewarding, worked in the kitchen prep, accounting, reception, food and beverage director. I did both rooms and food and beverage. A lot of time people say to you, well, what do you like the most? Follow that and it'll take you in. Back then, food and beverage was the way to becoming a general manager. Why? Because you learn cost control. Rooms is easy. So they say. Because they say, oh, you go room, you clean it, you sell it. No, it's not like that anymore. Because it's all about revenue management, yield management, as you know, how to really give you exponential value on each room. And so back then you didn't talk about comp sets and RevPAR indices and all that. Nowadays it's our only focus. So anyway, did both sides, and hotel manager and GM and VP and president, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the second question was how Rosewood as a company stands also, because now it's big companies acquire smaller companies, and this kind of trend to be more prestigious. To have
Yes.
more rooms. How Rosewood maintain its own identity and its own company-wise, etc.
Yeah, like I said, you know, we're family owned. The CEO chairman is Sonia Cheng. She's young. She's been given this company by the family to keep in the family fold. So that allows for creativity, that allows for longevity and sustainability for the company. So we're not, so the company doesn't need to sell. They have plenty of cash. But who knows, down the road, maybe eventually, you know, but they have enough wealth to buy other companies versus the other way around. So we feel very fortunate that Rosewood belongs to the right people. Yeah.
If you don't mind, we take only 5 more minutes with the 2 last questions there. I'm sorry for those that couldn't make it. You'll have time after, maybe informally. And just 1 question per person.
Thank you.
Second, so you mentioned co-working space, and as you know, WeWork is the biggest co-working space in the world. Yeah, I don't think you directly compete with them, but why should Rosewood go into co-working?
Yeah.
Will it be a concept like Soho House where you pay a lot of money to be there, or will it be a more casual environment? How do you?
Right, good question. So again, you know, we're trying to be disruptive in the hospitality community. So Rosewood Hotels Resorts is a very sort of unique, refined group of hotels. And this particular brand that we've just embarked on, it speaks to today's demographics. And if you think about it, in the next 5 years, there are going to be 220 million travelers. That's a lot of travelers. And I know that statistic because I read it earlier in one of the briefs. So I'm not making it up. But so today, people feel, you know, you're always on your contraptions, right? Your iPhones or your iPads, And so sometimes you want to sort of build relationships, and you think, okay, if I'm going to be working on something, I need to be able to look up and talk to somebody. And we feel that there's an opportunity here. Now, there are other brands that do that. And will we be like a Soho membership plus? No, it's not like that. It's going to be day membership, so it'll have a spa component. It'll have bathhouses. It'll have a downtime area because it's not just work, work, work. So you could say it's a bit like Soho House-ish, but done in a more refined way. You see what I mean?
One last question.
Thank you again for coming today. Very enlightening presentation. My name is Firas. I'm one of the MBA students here on campus. My question to you is, what was the biggest challenge that you came across through your career, and what was the lesson that came out of that challenge? Biggest
challenge. Oh God, every day is a challenge for me. I lose sleep every night. I think the biggest challenge was coming out of a company that I'd been part of for almost 2 decades, and to being thrown out there because Four Seasons, and I can speak to it, Four Seasons, it's culture. It's about the golden rule. It's about doing unto others what you expect to be done to yourselves. So I came out of that sort of Kool-Aid, and I was thrusted out and to run a company, to go from a regional vice president role to a president's role, and to go, okay, what am I going to do next? I don't like to fail. I'm competitive with myself, like I said. So it's coming out of that sort of fold, a protected environment, and leading a company. And 8 years later, I feel it's very fulfilling, very humbling to see that it's grown exponentially from all corners of the world.
I'm sorry, we need to cut it, otherwise people need to attend other classes. One last question, super fast.
So, you made mention of working with a younger CEO.
Yes.
How did you deal with your differences? I'm sure.
I'm not old. How rude are you? Just kidding.
How did you deal with your differences? I'm sure there were times you disagreed on issues.
It's a very good question. Actually, it's about being versatile in your life. And I feel very fortunate having traveled through the course of my entire life with my father, who was a diplomat. And so working with somebody who was young, and actually she's kept me youthful. And the way I think, innovation and so forth. I was always, like I said, OCD, very driven, very paranoid, very passionate. But to have someone like that, she keeps my mind agitated and thought-provoking. So for me, it's a huge plus. Otherwise, I'll be kind of leveling off by now, like some of my other colleagues.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Aroras.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.